Hi everyone, my name is Bhavani Pisapati Madero. I am a supervising attorney with the San Diego Volunteer Lawyer Program. Thank you so much for watching this training video on how to volunteer with our domestic violence clinics. The goal of our organization is to increase access to justice to indigent and other disadvantaged people in San Diego County by matching them up with volunteer attorneys who are willing to donate their time. As I mentioned, our domestic violence clinics are one way that attorneys can do this. We have clinics throughout San Diego County. This map shows their locations. We have them located in the courthouses, one in Central Courthouse downtown, one in the Vista Courthouse in North County, and one in the East County El Cajon Courthouse. We also have clinics in the Family Justice Centers, one of which is located in San Marcos and the other one's located downtown. In our clinics, we draft different types of restraining orders, including domestic violence restraining orders, elder abuse restraining orders, civil harassment restraining orders, gun violence restraining orders, and workplace violence restraining orders. In this training, I'm going to focus primarily on the domestic violence restraining orders because that's what we see most. Restraining orders generally have two parts. The first part is the temporary restraining order, which is an ex parte order from the court. It prohibits a person from committing specific acts of abuse, and it requires an act of abuse and a domestic relationship to be able to get it from the court. Then there's the permanent restraining order, which happens after a noticed hearing. This is when the judge will hear both sides and then make a decision on the merits regarding issuing a permanent order. This is a timeline of a domestic violence restraining order, and it starts out, as I mentioned, with a temporary order. This is what our clinic volunteers help with. They help fill out the paperwork and documentation needed for these TROs. If those are granted, they'll last for about 3 weeks. And then after that, there's the hearing, and the judge, after hearing, can issue an order for up to 5 years. As I mentioned, in order to get the temporary restraining order, there are two requirements. The first is an act of abuse. Abuse can mean physical harm, it can mean emotional harm, physical threat, anything like that, including also disturbing the peace. It does not have to be physical, which is really important to remember. And then the second part of it is the domestic relationship, which is who you think of when you think of either close family members or someone where the parties have had a romantic relationship of any kind. It does not include cousins, uncles and aunts, or those types of family relationships which are considered too distant. For those orders, they would have to be filed as civil. For volunteers assisting in our TRO clinics, they help with two parts of the order. The court forms need to be drafted, and then also the client needs to be interviewed so that a declaration can be drafted that details the acts of abuse. The clinics have template declarations, so volunteers use the same template when drafting these orders. This is just a sample court form. The forms are very long. They're over 30 pages, and so people have a hard time filling those out by themselves. In the temporary restraining order, the protected party can request a variety of things. These include a no contact order, personal conduct order, which prohibits negative behavior like hitting, stalking, surveilling, harassing. There's a stay away order, which is a physical distance where the restrained party has to stay away from the protected party. It also can include a kick-out order if the parties live together, so one party can be removed. There's a removal of firearms, so the restrained party has to turn in their guns to law enforcement or a licensed dealer during the order when it's valid. The protected party can protect animals, can protect their kids. The protected party can also request custody and visitation orders in a temporary restraining order, as well as protection for the kids. They can request control over a phone line so the other party can't cut off their phone or change the number, do something like that. There are support orders, both child support and spousal support. property restraint and reimbursement for damages. Protected party can also request temporary possession of property like a vehicle. They could also request DV classes for the restrained party, and they can ask for insurance benefits to remain in place. And generally, there's open-ended space to ask for other things that may be applicable, which the judge will consider. As I mentioned, there's a template for the declaration. The declaration details the past and recent acts of abuse. If the person filing for the restraining order has any corroborating evidence like photos of injuries, text messages, voicemails, all of these can be included in the request. So you may think that your help will not matter that much, but I really want to highlight how much an attorney helping out does make a difference. And so I have an example of a self-represented litigant who drafted their own statement in comparison to the volunteer attorney who helped them draft a different statement that was actually filed. This is an example of a declaration that a self-represented litigant wrote regarding why she wanted a restraining order. She wrote in her statement that her ex-boyfriend came to her house. He was banging on the door. She was inside with her kids, and she stepped out and told him that he needed to leave and to stop coming by. In comparison, there's a declaration, same set of facts, drafted by a volunteer attorney who is working with this particular litigant. The attorney was able to include a lot more details, a lot more relevant facts that really highlighted why this person needed a restraining order. For example, the attorney wrote in there that the harassment has been happening since 2019. That between April 3rd and June 17th, the ex-boyfriend had shown up at her house almost every day. On April 3rd, he called her 17 times in 1 hour, which she had a screenshot of. On April 12th, he had actually grabbed her phone away from her when she was about to call the police, and she had to lock herself in her bedroom until he left. So clearly there's a difference between the one the client drafted on her own and the one that was drafted by the attorney. And I want to stress that the attorney that helped her had no experience in family law or domestic violence. As far as the clinic logistics, everything is supervised by the in-clinic supervising attorney. So they review everything that's drafted before it's actually filed. We also have comprehensive training manuals that are available and easily accessible. And our clinics also allow in-person volunteering on-site at the clinic location or remote volunteering, which can be done from the volunteer's home office or work office, where they just talk to the person over the phone, draft everything, and then send it to the in-clinic attorney. We also have opportunities for direct representation of our clients at their restraining order hearings, but I won't focus too much on that in this presentation. I just want to stress that your help really does matter, as the example I provided really highlights. It gives people courage to follow through with their case. A lot of times people don't know what constitutes abuse. And so it's really helpful when an attorney is just hearing them talk about everything and then trying to pick out what they know will be most important to the court. It helps the judges a lot because it allows the judge to see the client's story in a clear and concise manner. And with evidence gathering, that is also something very helpful because oftentimes people don't realize when evidence they have can be helpful. For example, if they have a text message where the other party is apologizing, they may not think that that's relevant or important, but oftentimes if the other party is denying anything happened, something like that could be useful to show if something didn't happen, then why are you apologizing on this date? Just having somebody to be able to work through that with them is really helpful, and it makes an overwhelming process much easier to deal with. A lot of people have issues with logistics, like just getting the other party served. So being able to explain that process to somebody and help them with that makes a big difference. On average, it takes someone 6 to 8 times to leave an abusive relationship. There are a lot of other things they have to consider, like how this will affect the kids, how this will affect their living situation. Maybe they won't have a place to live if they leave. Just being able to be there for them and help them through this is really rewarding. We do ask our clients to fill out surveys for us when they finish with receiving services. You can see the comments that they make show how thankful they are for these services. One of the survey responses that stood out to us is the one requesting more staff. This is because our clinics are staffed only by one legal assistant and one staff attorney. So with just the 2 staff members, we're very limited in how much help we can provide. This is why it's so important for us to have volunteers so we can help more people. Thank you so much for watching today and your interest in volunteering with us. My contact information is on the screen, so please reach out to me directly if you are interested in volunteering.